Warm welcome everyone to our Microsoft's Azure training program. Azure is the Microsoft's cloud computing platform for application management. In today's world, especially in today's digital world, where everything is becoming digitalized, cloud has become an integral part of our life. You can take any example in most of the cases. Right? We will deal with cloud. We will deal with a cloud. Just to start with, all of us use Gmail, right? When you use Gmail, what happens? Like you get some 15 GB space where you can upload your photos, you can upload certain content. From where Google is providing that space, they make use of cloud. You take Amazon, you take Netflix, right? You take Hotstar, you play so many movies. From where do you think all the movie content gets loaded? Again, it's from the cloud. Right? In our today's digital world, day in and day out, we will use the concept of cloud. We will use the concept of cloud. I upload the recordings, right? Where do I upload the recordings? I upload them to a right drive, to a cloud, from where the access will be given to you. So it's an important for everyone. It's important for everyone to start referring or speaking in terms of a cloud. It doesn't matter what your role is going to be in the IT industry, but everyone has to move on to cloud either today or tomorrow. That's all. But remember, you had to start understanding the concepts of cloud if you want to be alive in the IT industry, because that is how the market is going. Every company is adopting, and in the same fashion, even as a person, we should upgrade ourselves to the cloud platform. There are different cloud providers that are available in the market, like AWS from Amazon, right? Google Cloud from Google, Azure from Microsoft, you have Oracle Cloud, you have IBM Cloud, you have Alibaba Cloud. There are different cloud, right, computing providers, platforms that are available in the market. In that, we are going to target Azure. We are going to target Azure. If you look at what is happening around the world, right, today especially, one side you have something called as Corona, which is forcing people to go right digitalized way. Now everything is happening right from the web. Let it be people attending the meetings, let it be people doing some office work, right? Or even you take our training. So earlier we used to have classroom trainings. Now I'm sitting in one place, someone else is sitting in a different place, someone else is sitting in a different place. We all are able to connect with each other and we are able to have this class, virtual class. It's becoming a mandate for every business to go the digitalized way. The moment you start bringing that, cloud is going to play a key role. Cloud is going to play a key role. Is my voice clear, guys?
Yes, sir, clear. Your voice is breaking, Srikanth.
Okay, so if it is clear for most of you, right, I
Yeah, it
guess.
is mostly clear, but
Sometimes
in
it's
between
better,
it is like
sometimes it is
some
breaking.
part of the voice is going out. Like it is
Okay,
Not able to sound
mostly.
clearly.
okay. Mhm. I'm just changing the settings. Just a moment. Hello, is this clear? Can you hear me? Okay, so I have changed the settings. Right, I hope it is clear. Right now, okay, I request all of you to go on mute again, please. Right, so Corona has changed the way how you work, right? And similarly, now look at Ukraine war, or look at Sri Lanka crisis, right? So where organizations don't want to restrict their applications to a specific location, they would want their applications to be scattered across the globe so that the reach can be better. The reach can be better. Tomorrow, if a problem occurs in one region, easily they should be able to move all their resources to a different region and start functioning. Right? So it's not that easy without a cloud. Right? Can anyone tell me what is the business that is happening on the cloud? At least in terms of some numbers. No, the revenue, right? There is something called as revenue shares, right? Like, remember, guys, it is increasing a lot, and it's somewhere around $500 billion market is happening on the cloud, right? And the expectation is by the next year it becomes $600 billion business, right? And it is going to go a lot of distance. It is going to go a lot of distance. That is how the market is going in terms of the cloud because of what is happening around us, right? They are changing the way how you work as an engineer, or you interact with people, or you do anything, right? It is completely becoming a new approach of how you develop an application, or how you access an application, or how you look at application. Remember, every one of us, maybe today or tomorrow, we all have to migrate to a cloud. There are different cloud providers, as I said, and we are going to target Azure. We are going to target Azure. As always, I start with a practical scenario. I start with a practical scenario. Now, the scenario that I would want to take for our today's class is I want to develop a web application. Assume that I represent an organization. I represent an organization. My organization want to develop a web application, something similar to maybe google.com or amazon.com or flipkart.com. It can be anything. So I would want to develop a web application, something similar to google.com, and I want to host that application, and I want people across the globe to start accessing the application using internet. Right? I want people to use internet, access my application from anywhere across the globe. That is what is the requirement. That is what is the requirement. Now assume that I have a team who has spent so much of time and they have developed an application. Now I have an application. Now what I should do? I should deploy this application. The moment I say I should deploy this application, what do you need? You need some, sorry. So I have an application and I want to deploy the application. If I want to deploy the application, what do I need, guys? I need a physical machine. I need a physical machine. So assume that your organization has purchased a physical machine and they have given you the machine. Within this system, what do we do? You may install some server. It can be AS, it can be Apache, or Tomcat. You may install any server. You will install, maybe to be specific, web server. You install some web server. And within this web server, what do we do? You host the application. You host the application. Once you host the application, what do? You purchase some domain name from any provider, Google Domains, GoDaddy. We have different providers who will give us the domains. You purchase a domain and then you create a CNAME record. These are all the things you will understand as we go forward, guys. Right? So you do not have to have the detailed understanding of all this. You are going to do all this practically. So you purchase a domain, like google.com is a domain, right? Microsoft.com is a domain. You purchase a domain, and then what you do is you specify, you do the mapping that if the request comes to this domain, forward that request this particular IP address. Forward the request to this particular IP address. I can show you the same practically. I can open command prompt. I'll say ping www.google.com. You can see my request is going to an IP address 142.250.195.68, and I request you to try the same, and in the chat please type the IP addresses that you are hitting, guys. You may not hit the same IP. List the IP address here. And I request participants to try the same and list me the IP addresses where your request is going. Only one has replied. Request more and more IP addresses, guys. Request most of you to try. Can you see here? None of us are hitting the same IP because we may be in different locations. And we are sending the request. When we are sending the request, right, from different places, requests are going to different IP addresses. That means what Google might have done, they may have installed their application in multiple physical machines. They didn't install the application in one system. They have installed the application in multiple systems. The same they have replicated. Like this, they would have replicated in multiple systems. And what they do in general, can anyone guess when a request comes? How do Google decide where should the request be redirected? You might be hearing the term in the industry. Yes, as you see, there is something called as load balancer. People uses load balancer. They use a load balancer, and when different people sends the request, load balancer uses an algorithm and accordingly they decide whether the request should be forwarded to machine 1 or request should be forwarded to machine 2, or if you have multiple machines, how the request has to be forwarded to a different system. It depends on the configuration, but it is the responsibility of a load balancer. Now, if I want to implement the same infrastructure for my organization, if I want to implement the same infrastructure for my organization should spend some money. My organization should spend some money in terms of purchasing multiple machines, web servers, and they should host the application. They should host the application in all those physical machines, and you have to purchase. Again, your organization has to spend some time and money in terms of creating this load balancer, setting up this configuration. It's not going to happen that quick. Your organization has to spend so many other things, right? It has to recruit, right? It has to recruit the people who are expertised in setting up this environment, right? And tomorrow, if these two are not sufficient, then you may need to add another set of the same infrastructure. You may have to create another machine, install the application there, and you have to keep extending things. And especially if you look at Amazon or Flipkart, where during some time I saw the message that, right, 23rd Amazon has big billion days. During the time the traffic will be too much, right? Only for that period of time traffic will be too much. When the traffic is too much, the existing infrastructure may not be sufficient. I may have to scale out my infrastructure. There are terms like scale out, scale in, scale up, scale down. You will understand as we progress. So my application should be running in multiple servers for a certain period, and I should be able to easily configure such things. It's not easy. It's not easy if you don't use any cloud in order to do the same things. Organization has to spend so much of money and time should be invested in order to do this setup. It's not easy, but the same example we can we can achieve with very less efforts when we target something called as a cloud. When you use cloud as the infrastructure, the use case, whatever I am showing you here, you can easily configure that. Right? Just one use case of why we should go for a cloud computing platform. In tomorrow's class, we will see such use cases. We will discuss, right, many other examples. We'll try to understand why we should adopt something called as cloud computing platform. Why one should get into that. You see the same example when we try to reach google.com, requests are going to different machines. It's not one machine. They are going to different machines based on your geography, right? I want to do the same setup. Right now, what I want to do is I have an application that is developed using Angular. I want to deploy that application in multiple machines. I would want to create a load balancer, and I want people to send the request to the load balancer. Load balancer should internally use some algorithm to ensure that my request is processed by one of these machines. Can we go ahead and do this, implement this use case, guys? And now I'm going to show you this use case practically. So what I do is I have some code case. I have some Angular application. Just showing you. I have some Angular application. How to generate this? I'll show you. Right now, here are the contents I have. It can be an Angular application. It can be ASP.NET Core application. It can be a PHP application. It can be a Java application. It can be anything. So you have some application. Now what do we want to do? I want to deploy this application into two different machines. I want to deploy this application into two different machines. And I want to have a load balancer. And I want people to send a request to this load balancer. And the request should be processed by any one of the machines that are connected to this load balancer. That is what we are going to do now. When you want to implement this solution using Azure, you have different ways using which you can connect to Azure and configure all this. You can use something called as portal. There is something called as portal that is provided by Azure, right? Portal.azure.com. I use this portal and then I'll create some virtual machines. Right? So I'll create a virtual machine. It's like I will be paying some money to Microsoft and they will give me a view. So they'll charge. I'll create something called as a resource group. Forget about all this, what I'm doing. Just focus on the end result for today. Rest all may not be needed that much. What is the machine name I'm giving? Demo VM. So just in this case, the machine name is Demo VM. And then what is the region where you want this machine to be created? I make it as US. I use something called as availability set. I am completely okay if you don't understand anything what you see here. It's absolutely fine because you are first class, you doesn't know what I'm doing. What I'm just trying to do is at the end, I want to create one machine, virtual machine, and I want to deploy my application into that. That is what is my target. I'm providing a username and password using which I connect. I allow HTTP. That's it. I say review and create. I'm creating a virtual machine, guys. Remember that. This portal has certain issues, especially when you try to create some resources. Though everything looks fine, some bugs would be keep coming there. We don't prefer the portal way. Slowly, you will understand. You use PowerShell scripting to do all this, whatever you're doing manually. Now you see they charge 9 rupees per hour. All right, I'm okay. I'll say create. After that machine is created, the machine is in this case, the name is demo VM. After the machine is created, what should we do, guys? We should install some web server and host our application inside that server. Host our application inside that server. All right. A process is happening. And you see deployment is in progress. So many other things are getting configured here. It's like, if I try to explain you, we are trying to create a virtual machine. If you want to create a virtual machine, you need a virtual network. You need network security group. You need some IP address. You need NIC network interface card. All those things are getting created, and after that your VM will be created. VM doesn't mean you just need a machine. Your machine needs a network in which that machine will be placed. Your machine needs an IP address using which you will connect to that machine. Right? Your machine needs a network interface card, NSG. All these will be discussed in detail as we progress, guys. All these are concepts that I'm going to teach you as part of Azure administration. And now the resource is created. You can say go to resource. You see, resource is demo VM. Now Microsoft has given us VM. Microsoft has given us a VM. Right? Now I can connect to that VM. You can use RDP, you can use SSH, you can use Bastion. If it is a Windows machine, you use RDP. If it is a Linux machine, you use SSH. Bastion is a separate service which we will be discussing. Right now, I said download RDP file. I have provided certain credentials. I use the same credentials to connect to that virtual machine. It takes some time to boot up, right? So you created a VM, so it needs some time to boot up and give you give you the infrastructure that is needed so that you can go ahead and start creating some web servers and deploying your application. In the meantime, we can do one more thing parallelly. Right? Now, I go home again. I'll create another virtual machine. Because look at our requirement. Our requirement is to create two VMs. One is demo VM is created. Now I'll create another VM. And I'll say create Azure virtual machine. I use the resource group that we have created. This VM name, I'll give it as test VM. This is your image that you're selecting. If you need Linux image, you need, right? CentOS image, you need Windows image. Right now, I'm selecting Windows image. Now let's go to the demo VM. I enable IIS in this machine, guys. As it is Windows machine, we get IIS feature by default. So let's enable that feature. So here you have web server, IIS, add features. Next, as it is a Windows VM, I'm just enabling IIS feature. So that gets installed. Now in the meantime, take a look at this again. See here, guys. See all these things. IP address, right? The resource that is getting created. NSG, Network Security Group, right? VM. This is basically NIC. That is what you call it as Network Interface Card. Test VM. That is the virtual machine. So resource, type, status. See the operational details. You will have the entire information here. Now the deployment is in progress. These resources are created. Now the test VM resource deployment is in progress. This installation is happening. I requested not to ask the question directly. So we'll come to that. So I'm just explaining certain things. So once I'm done, so I'll take your questions, please. VM is created. Now I connect to this VM as well. Installation is succeeded in this machine. I close. I open Windows Explorer. I'm inside my demo VM. I go to this PC, C drive. When you install IIS, you get inetpub. Open inetpub, in which now you will have a folder called as www root, where I'm going to get into that. So that is what you see here. Now what I do as I said, I have the code ready. I need to deploy that. So what I'm going to do is I copy all these contents. I paste the contents here. Now the application is deployed here. Now the application is deployed. What I would all right of you to do is accessing this IP address, guys. I open a browser. And let's access that. It's 20.124.34.214. Can you see the application is running? I request all of you to access the same, guys. 20.124.34.214. And please let me know if you are able to access this or not. It is a public IP. Everyone will be able to access this. Yes or no, guys? Are you able to access this? Yes. Now, in the meantime, let's go to test VM as well. And let's do the same setup even in test VM. This is test VM, different IP address. Installation is under the way. What did we do till now? We created demo VM, installed web server, and hosted our application in that web server. Now this is test VM. In our case, the machine 2 is test VM. We are enabling IIS, and then we will host the application. Either we can host the application or we can use the default application that is provided by the web server. But to maintain uniqueness and integrity, so we will host the application as well. We will host the application as well. And once these two are done, then we will set up the load balancer. It is easy. We have to wait until it is done, guys. So installations do take some time, and we should be little patient enough to wait and then continue the discussion. It is succeeded, so I can close this. Now if I open Windows Explorer, this PC, C drive, you get inetpub, www root, you will have these things. If you try accessing this machine, 20.127.34.8, I guess, you get this. This is what you get. Now if I host the application that we have, I copied the application and I have pasted here. Now if I refresh this, you get my demo app. How do you differentiate my demo app from demo VM, my demo app from test VM? We can do one thing, right? I'll make some small change. This is index.html file. I'll open this index.html using a notepad. Just add one h1 element, right? This is from demo VM. I do the same thing in the test VM as well. This is from test VM. I close this. Now if you refresh this page, you get this is from test VM. If you refresh this page, you get a message that this is from demo VM. So you can see this is from demo VM and this is from test VM. Different VMs hosted the same application, but to identify the difference, which is coming from test VM, which is coming from demo VM, I added some content here. That's it. This is for our understanding. Now, what should we do? We should do this setup. So we should set up a load balancer. Now, let's see how do we do that. In Portal, you will have load balancers. You have different load balancing options. I use load balancer, create load balancer. You have application gateway, traffic manager, front door. Many options are there. I use load balancer. I select the same group. I name it as demo LB. I'll quickly do this, guys. I don't explain you these options, which I'll do anyway further in our upcoming classes. I will explain you the load balancer in detail. IP version. Do you want IPv4 or IPv6? Version like version 4 or version 6? Public IP. I don't have an IP, so demo LB IP. Do you want it to be dynamic or static? I'm okay with dynamic. Say add. Next, I go to backend pools. I'll add a backend pool. Select the network that we have created. In this network, how many VMs we have created, guys? We have created two VMs. You can see demo VM and test VM. These two are displayed here. Say add. Save this. Next, I'll add a load balancing rule. The front end IP address that we have created, the backend pool that we have created, I'm just selecting the same. Now, it is asking us the port. Now, this is a web application. Do you know web application listens on what port number? 80. Web application listens on a port called as 80. So, if the request comes on port number 80, in the backend pool, you have some VMs. So, the VM, how do you want to send the request? On what port number again? You would want the backend systems to listen. So, it's 80. Health probe, create health probe. As I said, I don't want you to understand what I'm doing here. Just be a silent spectator and observe what is happening here. That's it, guys. Next outbound rule. It's a review and create. Did some configuration. That's it, guys. Create load balancer. Deployment is in progress. Let's wait until the deployment is done. As you go to resource, your load balancer will have an IP address, guys. So I use this IP address. Access. Now you see it is coming from test VM. Keep reloading this. At some point of time you will see that request comes from demo VM, or I request people to access this. See, it comes from demo VM, it comes from test VM. I request people to try this, reaching this IP address 20.25.58.225. Please try this, guys. You will hit test VM in some cases, and in some cases you will hit demo VM. It's not going to be the same output you get all the times. When you send requests, it will be handled by different VMs behind the scenes. Are you able to reach this URL, guys? Means IP address. And I hope you can see that request is coming from test VM, request is coming from demo VM. Under different circumstances, you will get different output. You see here, you have a load balancer. You send the request to the load balancer. Load balancer uses an algorithm to decide which system should process the request, and accordingly it will forward the request. The same is happening in case of Google. I have demonstrated with two systems. They have multiple servers deployed across the globe, and they are able to use a load balancer to distribute the traffic between the different VMs or servers that are created. Now see how easy it has become. We were able to hardly spend 20 minutes, right? We were hardly able to spend 20 minutes to the configuration. Just you have to focus on developing the application. And after the application is developed, what did we do here? We created VMs, we enabled IIS, deployed our application there, created a load balancer, and the load balancer we have configured the backend. Right, backend has two VMs, demo VM and test VM. Tomorrow, if you feel load is not sufficient, you may want to have another VM. Then you can add another VM, and the load gets distributed between the available systems. It is the responsibility of the load balancer to do that. And when you create or when you purchase a domain name, maybe from GoDaddy or maybe from Google Domains, you will get something called as CNAME records. All that I'll be showing you practically. So there you will create a CNAME record for this IP. That means with this IP. Clear? I have just taken one simple use case and demonstrated this practically. Now, how this is important for us in tomorrow's class, we will start understanding what is cloud computing, what are the benefits that we get, what are the different models we have, right? What are IaaS, PaaS, right? SaaS. So you have different models. There are many things that you will get into starting from tomorrow. This explanation, this use case will try helping us in different ways to understand the cloud terminologies better. Right? With that, I stop here for the day. If you have any questions, I would like to take up your questions now.